Well, once we heard he was coming to Sarasota, we had to get him on the show, and we are glad he was available to be with us today. I'm talking about Martin Short. You all know him from his work on television and the movies, and it is a great pleasure to welcome Martin Short to On the Town today with Robin and Doug. Hi, Martin. How you doing?
How are you? Very well.
Great to finally catch up with you. Sorry we had to bounce you around a little bit. I know you were traveling around, but it's great to talk to you. Welcome to Sarasota this week.
My pleasure. How are you doing?
Great.
Good. Hi, how are you?
Excellent.
Robin is a huge fan of yours, so I'm going to let her ask you a few questions.
You are, Rob?
Hi, Martin. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm in sunny Los Angeles.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, yes, I am one of your biggest fans.
Well, thank you very much.
You know, I work for a crisis center and for rape and domestic violence, and then I go home and I watch you, and I smile again.
What an extreme.
Well, bringing your one-man show to Broadway in the spring, do you like the challenge of a live audience? How do you keep your energy level up? Any hints? Vitamins? Scotch? What?
Yeah, you know, you just kind of, well, I mean, it's different. When I do these concerts, this isn't actually the show that I'll be bringing in New York. This is just a different form of it. But if you're doing a nightly show in New York, you have to, do all those things. You do vitamins, you sleep a lot, and you can't go into noisy restaurants because you're constantly living with your voice. You wake up every day, you know. And if it's thick and phlegmy, you can't even speak on the phone.
I know you just finished a run in The Producers, right, with Jason Alexander.
I did.
How was that? That must have been a lot of fun.
That was a ride, yeah. It was like, well, it's just a joyful show, you know, and it was like a party every night.
You played the Leo Bloom part.
Bloom.
Yeah, that must have been just the comedy in that show. I've seen bits and pieces, wonderful songs in that show.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And, you know, Mel Brooks is a trip to work with. And Jason Alexander is you can't find anyone better, you know. He's just so professional and so there, and so, you know, he's in a great mood. When you do a show every day, you hope that someone's in a good mood, you know. When you go to work, anything, you're hoping they're in a good mood.
Was there any talk of you and Jason bringing that to Broadway?
You know, our family's in L.A., so, yeah, they wanted us to, but it wasn't something we wanted to. You know, after doing it 8 months, you kind of felt like you'd done it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wearing so many hats, you know, you're a writer, you're a producer, and playing so many different characters, do you ever lose the real Martin?
No, it's very much like, I learned a long time ago that the secret to being in show business was not to take it personally, you know. So you kind of just, I treat it like a business. Literally, I started at 10, and by 5, I'm done.
Right, and you leave it there and...
Yeah, I mean, so
enjoy your life.
You just try to figure it out. There's no easy answer. And usually you fail, so what do you do?
Has being a parent altered how you look at comedy and writing and stuff like that?
Well, I think that, you know, as opposed to like Bill Cosby or someone, I don't really talk a lot about my kids and family,
right,
satirically. So, no, I'm kind of drawn toward characters. I mean, this show I'm doing in Sarasota is like a party, you know. If you imagine me throwing a party for everyone in Sarasota, that this is where it would be like, you know, and people are brought up on stage, and I do, Ed Grimley shows up, and Jiminy Glick, and all these characters, and so it's more loose and joyful and playful as opposed to meaningful.
Right.
I got to tell you, that Jiminy Glick show on Comedy Central, I had to tape those. Those are hilarious.
Thank you.
So you'll be bringing him Saturday night. He'll be there. Great.
Yeah, he'll be there.
I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Thin face, but fat body.
Great.
You know, one of my favorite characters that you do is Franck from Father of the Bride.
Yeah. I love that character.
I love that character. He is such a trip.
Yeah.
Now, is the Jiminy Glick movie coming out, Martin? I heard
Jiminy Glick, yeah, it comes out May 6th.
Okay,
Jiminy Glick and Lalawood.
Right, I knew you premiered it at a film festival in Canada, didn't you recently?
In Toronto Film Festival,
yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
It's pretty funny.
Is that just kind of an extension of the show with
No,
Michael McKean?
It's the idea of Jiminy Glick going to the Toronto Film Festival and meeting this odd guy at the bar who turns out to be David Lynch, played by me, the director. And we realized that the film that David Lynch is planning and thinking in his head, his next film, is in fact what we're then seeing.
Oh, okay.
So he's the puppeteer of this whole thing, and but there are interviews in it. But there, you know, Elizabeth Perkins and Janine Garofalo are in the cast, and interviews with Steve Martin and Kurt Russell. And it's pretty funny.
I can't wait to see it. Do you like doing voices? I know you've done a lot of voices for, I think, The Prince of Egypt and Treasure Planet.
Right.
101 Dalmatians.
It's a lot of fun because you can just try as many things as you want, and whenever they stumble on it, you've kind of done it. You know, sometimes when you make movies or television, there's only so much time you can. They only have time for, let's say, 3 takes. In a studio, they can do 100 takes.
Just got to ask you a couple of quick questions while we have 2 minutes, Martin. Just your thoughts on Johnny Carson, who unfortunately passed away. I know you had so many great appearances with him.
Well, I mean, he was literally the best. There was no one better. There was no one more in the moment. I did his show many, many times, and you'd sit across from him, and when you get that laugh from him, it was the most exciting thing imaginable. You know, I always think that when you're in show business, you can meet a lot of people who are very famous, but when you meet the people who were very famous when you were a little kid, that's different.
Mm.
So it's exciting. You know, it might be cool to meet Tom Cruise, but when Jack Lemmon would walk in, it would be like, wow, that's Jack Lemmon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so that's how I felt about Johnny Carson. In fact, the first time I was ever on Johnny Carson, I was on Johnny Carson in between Johnny Carson and Betty Davis.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like, someone had slipped me acid or something.
Yeah. And you kind of base that character you do on Jiminy Glick, the woman in the audience, on her a little bit, don't you?
On that experience that
Yeah,
night,
right.
yeah. Absolutely.
That's great.
The woman in Mrs. Haversham, I think is her
Miss
name?
Gathercole.
Gathercole, yeah, right. That's great.
That was my grade 2 teacher, Gathercole.
Gathercole.
Gathering coal. But, no, Johnny was the greatest. And
Yeah.
everyone adored him.
Do you think that people like Johnny Carson and you, do you think people are born funny, or do you think it's a skill? Do you think people, like actors that are comedians out there?
I think that there's a tendency, I have found, for people who end up going into comedy. You found out that they were funny in high school, and they fooled around. They did voices when they were 8, and they had little imaginary shows. And, that's more of what I imagine is a scenario than someone who just is very depressed and downbeat, and suddenly at 20, I'm going to go into comedy. It usually doesn't work that way.
Well, Martin, it's been great to catch up with you.
We'll come
Thank
back
you.
and say
Joining us
hi.
today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.